I'm Nate, and today let's look at The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 1, The Apostate. In this episode, Djarin seeks to atone for his transgressions after removing his helmet by bathing in the living waters on Mandalore. In order to do so, he seeks to build a team to assist him, including the droid IG-11 and Bo Katan. Written by Jon Favreau and directed by Rick Famuyiwa, Episode 1 was released on March 1st, 2023 on Disney+. The episode starts on an unknown planet where the armorer fashions a new helmet for a young initiate named Ragnar. During the ceremony, a large sea beast jumps out of the water and attacks the group. Din Djarin shows up in his Naboo N1 starfighter and blasts the beast to death. Din then speaks with the armorer about finding redemption for his transgressions. The Creed speaks of a way to do so. If he bathes in the living waters found in the mines of Mandalore, he will be renewed and he can call himself a Mandalorian once again. However, Mandalore has been ruined due to the Great Purge during the war with the Jedi before the Clone Wars, and its air is too toxic for living. But Din produces a crystal with a Mandalorian inscription on it. He believes that in order for someone to have retrieved the crystal, the planet would have to be inhabitable. Therefore, he believes he can accomplish his mission, and the armorer blesses his quest. And with this we get the main theme for the season: redemption. Almost all the returning supporting characters get a hint at what is in store for them in terms of their own redemption. Greef Karga has become a magistrate from being a bounty dealer, so his redemption has already been felt. Grogu has left Luke's Jedi training and has much to learn and ways to grow. In this episode, we finally see Din showing him a skill, specifically how to fly. And Bo Katan has seemingly hit rock bottom and is in need of an image makeover to get back in the fight. It's been over 2 years since the Season 2 finale in which we saw the return of Luke Skywalker. And in a recent interview, Jon Favreau stated that the time period between the events at the end of Season 2 and the start of Season 3 has been 2 years as well, with the events of the Book of Boba Fett being in between. He stated that Grogu spent most of those 2 years training with Luke. Though we know that Grogu returned to Din during the Book of Boba Fett, it is not clear where in those 2 years that happened. Though Jon Favreau stated that the episode would not spend any time catching newcomers up on what has already happened, the episode still had a lot of ground to cover. First off, Gina Carano was fired for daring to go against Disney's political ideology, so her character either needed to be replaced or recast. But now we know that Cara Dune has basically been sent off to do other things, namely that she was drafted into a New Republic Special Forces group. This is good news for Cara Dune fans, because there is a possibility that she can come back. With Favreau nearly walking out on Lucasfilm for Kathleen Kennedy meddling in his projects, it's clear that the Gina Carano drama is part of that, and it is something that Jon would probably like to have resolved in a positive way for the fans. Second, a new villain needed to be identified. With Moff Gideon ultimately being defeated, it would render Din and his associates impotent if Gideon somehow escaped to run amok again. So Favreau created Pirate King Gorian Shard. Initially, when the pirates entered the scene in Navarro, I thought we were going to get a live-action Hondo Ohnaka. Instead, we get Vane, a Nikto pirate who works for Shard. The dogfight that Vane and Din engage in prior to Shard being introduced on screen was intense and really cool. As they battled through the asteroid field, it reminded me of The Empire Strikes Back. Though I felt the pirate sequence as a whole was rather useless or unrelated to the plot of the episode, it was captivating. Then we get to meet Shard, and I'm not going to lie, it was a huge letdown. I felt Shard's appearance was too comical to take seriously. Rather than facial hair or tentacles like Davy Jones of the Pirates of the Caribbean, Gorian's face is covered in what looks like seaweed or moss. It sounds interesting, but the way it turned out visually was just dumb. It was not imposing in any way. I hope there was more to his appearance in future episodes. Third, if Grogu is going to gallivant around the galaxy with Din, then he needs to learn some things. A skill that is useful to have in the Star Wars universe is being a pilot. The Razor Crest was a cool ship, but it wasn't fast, nor was it really made for space battles. So most of the scenes with the Razor Crest just seemed like one of the many sets a scene could take place in, rather than a prop in which the hero could yield and use to his advantage. When Din came across the Naboo fighter, it was cool to see a familiar spacecraft being sold as a used vehicle, but the potential that it has for some really cool battle sequences makes Din's choice even better. And with battle sequences, Din can really show Grogu some things, and eventually, Grogu can take the reins and fly. So when we see Din engage Vane in a dogfight, it's a foreshadowing of what we might see this season. Fourth, on the way to Navarro, Din sleeps in hyperspace, while Grogu watches the hyperspace lanes. As they travel, several hyperspace whales called Purrgils can be seen next to them. Purrgils were first seen in Star Wars Rebels in Season 2, Episode 15, and then in the final series episode in which the Purrgils take Ezra and Thrawn into hyperspace. Where they went we don't know, but we might be finding out soon. Both Thrawn and Ezra have been cast, but we don't know which series they will be slotted to show up in. I think that Shard is going to be the minor villain that pressures Din from time to time, but ultimately Din will need a worthy opponent, and I think Thrawn would be more captivating than Shard. However, I'm not sure if Thrawn would be the Joker to Din's Batman. I feel like that was Gideon. Fifth, if Din is going to go to Mandalore, he needs some help. For this, he heads to Navarro to ask Greef Karga to bring IG-11 back to life from the ashes of his own parts. Navarro has been transformed by Karga into a growing trade city along the Hiding Way trade route. He offers Din some prime land where he can settle down, but Din has other matters to attend to. The resurrection of IG-11 goes awry when his programming resets to when he was hunting Grogu. As a result, IG-11's memory circuit was destroyed in the scuffle. Some Anzellan droid smiths try to fix IG-11, but need a new memory circuit. The circuit is rare, so Din says he'll try to find one, and thus we have Din's next task, to find a memory circuit for IG-11. Lastly, Din visits Kalevala, another planet in the Mandalorian system, where the castle for House Kryze is located. Bo Katan is alone in the throne room. Din has come to join her quest to retake Mandalore, clearly a cover so he can get to the mines of Mandalore. She mocks him for caring for the Mandalorian people. The children of the Watch abandoned Mandalore before the Great Purge. She asks Din if he still has the Darksaber. He states that he does, and she tells him that her team left her to become mercenaries after she failed to get the Darksaber. Din tells her about his mission to bathe in the living waters of Mandalore to atone for his transgressions. Bo Katan mocks him again for believing in such superstition. There is nothing magical about the mines. The irony here is that Bo Katan believes in the superstition that the Darksaber bestows leadership on whoever wields it. I've always thought Bo Katan is a complex character. Her motivations seem altruistic, that she's a patriot and loves her people, but even in the Clone Wars, I always felt she was overzealous and more selfish than anything. I've never felt she was the type to join forces with someone else unless there was something in it for her and if her quest was held in higher esteem than everyone else's. In this scene, I think we finally see this. Bo Katan mocks Din for his faith in his own clan beliefs, but she doesn't realize she too believes in something mystical, the power of the Darksaber. But unlike Din, she's lost her motivation and has resorted to whining and moping. Overall, I thought this episode was great. Grogu was up to his normal antics, though much kinder, and we could even see his Beskar chainmail poking out from under his tunic. Let me know what you all think in the comments section. Thanks for watching, and if you like the content and the deeper discussion into the themes found in Star Wars, please hit the like button and subscribe to keep me in your feed.